Hey, First Church family, Pastor John here. Another weekly blog, video, vlog, whatever it's called. I'm not really sure, but we're doing this thing. We're getting into it. Today we're going to be talking about 1 Samuel chapter 24. This has been in our life journal reading this week. This is the first time David has the opportunity to kill Saul, his predecessor, but doesn't. And if you're not familiar with the story, this is 1 Samuel chapter 24, starting in verse 1. Samuel has already ordained David to be king. So David is fully king, but he's actually also fully refugee too, because the current king, Saul, has become jealous of David, knowing that one day he's going to take his place, and has been chasing him and has made David a refugee, sort of a renegade. And so you have this weird paradox where David is fully king, fully refugee, which is strange. And so David is hiding from King Saul. And it's in the story, at this place in the story, David is resting in the back of a cave, and Saul is fighting Philistines while chasing David at the same time, becomes tired, becomes weary. So him and his men actually go to rest in the mouth of the very cave that David is hiding in the back of with his men. And so Saul lays down to rest, and David's men go, David, look, this is it. This is your opportunity to kill Saul, to get rid of this guy, and to fully take the privilege that's been given to you by God to be king over Israel. And so David sneaks up on Saul while he's sleeping, but he doesn't kill him. He actually cuts his robe off. And when Saul wakes up, David actually does something pretty remarkable. He addresses him as father, and he says, look, my father Saul, King Saul, I've not killed you because I want to honor you, and I want you to know that I love you and I'm here to serve you. And that's really profound, because again, Saul is actually in the way of what God actually is doing in David's life. And truly in this world, David has every right, every privilege to do what he needs to do to step into what God has called him to do. But he doesn't. He actually lays down that privilege and gives Saul an opportunity to carry on doing what he's doing, even persecuting David. And it's just kind of mind-blowing, because that's just so opposite and counterintuitive of how this world works. When something is yours, you take it. When you have access to something that belongs to you that somebody else is blocking from you, you try to move them out of the way to get what belongs to you. That's why we have legal systems and lawyers and courts and judges, is so people get what they deserve or what they have access or privilege to. But David doesn't do that. He lays down his right and continues on being this weird position of fully king, as he's been anointed by Samuel. The moment Samuel anointed David, he was fully king, but he was entered into this process of becoming king-like, right? And being fully refugee. So he's just in this weird position where he is fully king, but he is fully refugee, and he's just allowing God to work this out in his life. And when you think about that, who does that remind you of, or what is that a foreshadow of? It's actually a foreshadowing of our Savior Jesus. It says in Philippians 2, verses 6, 7, 8, and 9, that Jesus, being fully God, became fully man and laid down his divine privilege so that he could take on the position of a servant, of the humble position of a slave, so that we could know him and relate to him, and so that eventually God could exalt him through his sacrifice to the highest place of honor. And so obviously it's noble and it's humble, but when we lay down our privilege, when we lay down our right, when we let God do in us what only he can do, and lay down the desire to take the privileges that are due to us, we're actually prophesying to our spirits that although I could do this in my own strength, although I deserve this, although this makes sense in the natural, in the flesh, in the carnal, if I lay down my privilege right here and allow God to be in control of my life, I'm going to also allow him to take me to the highest place of honor that he has decided for my life in the future. But if I hold on to my privilege, if I try to take what's mine, if I try to take what I think I deserve, I'm actually just reducing the call of my life to what I can do, rather than being hidden in the bosom of God and allowing him to take me where he's called me to be. And so it's actually an act of prophecy that when David decided not to take Saul's life into his own hands and actually handed David's own privilege and Saul's life over to God, he was prophesying in that moment, I'm going further than I could take myself because I've relinquished my privilege and given my life fully over to God and his plan for where I'm supposed to be going. That's powerful. Folks, God has a great plan for each one of us, but it doesn't look like us getting what we think we deserve or taking advantage of all the privilege we have access. It actually looks like us knowing that we're fully called, we're sons and daughters, we're high priests, we're kings, and we're going to rule and reign for all of eternity. But the way we prepare for that place of high honor is by laying our privilege down so that God can use us in ways that we could never in places that we can never take ourselves. And this is really hard to learn and understand, because in the world, when you have opportunity, you take it. When somebody owes you something, you get it back. When you have privilege, you exert it to the highest degree so that you can get what's owed to you. But in the kingdom, you lay that down and you serve people violently and radically in preparation for God to exalt you into the highest place of honor. And so when we do that, when we lay our privileges down as David did, as Jesus did, it's an act of violence. It's a prophetic declaration that although I could do this in my own power, in God's strength, I can go much further than I could ever take myself. Okay, love you guys. Have a great week. I'll talk to you next week.